Hi everyone, so welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do Scabious for you. I'm going to do it two different ways, so whichever is easier for you, because with a lot of flowers there are different ways of doing it, and it depends on what you're doing with the flowers when you've made them, whether you're just making them for decoration, if you're doing them in porcelain or other mediums that will keep, or whether you're doing them to put on a cake. As with most of my flowers, apart from one that I did in the last video, generally I make the flowers so that I can put them on cakes. So because of time and cost, you need to make them as quick as you can. Some are quicker than others, depending on what kind of flower you're doing. So I'll take you down to my board and I'll show you what I'm going to use. Right, so these are a couple of scabious that I've made already. One of them I've part coloured and the other one I've totally coloured to finish it off. Now then, the difficulty I found with these particular flowers is doing the centre part. Now with both of these I did the petals, then I put the centre in, then I attached the little bobbles in there. But I'll come on to what I've used there in a bit when I've done the flowers that I'm going to do them. So I'm going to show you two different ways of doing it. Now I'm going to make this one slightly easier than the one that I did earlier. I'll just bring that down with those on there, and we'll get rid of those flowers out of the way just for the time being. So you need to stand the base in somewhere. Now what I've started off with, first of all, as you can see here, is by making the calyx for the flower before I've actually started doing the petals. I found it a lot easier doing this. Years ago I saw somebody else demonstrating, and that's how they made it, although I've done my calyx a little bit different to the way that they did theirs. Out of foam, so if you can get hold of these, this is the best way to do it. If you haven't got these, find something with a cup shape and put some foil into it and use that, but these are sturdier because they're more solid. Now the calyx has been made with one of the cutters from my daisy set. This is an FMM daisy set, so I've used the second size in the daisies to do the calyx. And then the cutters here, I found a set of cutters the other day, full enough, on eBay. Normally I bought them from my supplier, but I didn't have these cutters. And this had the leaf cutters in it, and then 3 sizes for petals. Now for this particular one and that size of cutter, I'm going to use the middle one of the Scabious set. So I'll just get rid of the other two. Put those back in the bag with my label to make sure I know what's in there. So I'm going to start off with the calyx first of all. So I'm going to get some green paste. Now then, with this particular calyx here, what I've done is I've cut out 2 daisies, put one into the former, and then I've done my a hook on the top of my wire like that. So you want to do it, I'll do that for you just to show what I've done there. Easier than trying to explain it, isn't it? You need a reasonably strong wire for that. So for that I'm using a 22 gauge wire. And I cut that into 3. And then with a pair of fine nose pliers, get the end, bend it over like that into a hook, and then get hold of the flat piece and bring your wire down so that is flat. And what I did with that was I did one daisy, then I put the wire through it, and then I did another daisy. Now that was a fiddly job to do, so what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do, as I said, I'm going to do 2 different ways. So we'll just forget about that one for the time being. And This one I'm going to do all in one, this particular Scabious. So I'm going to do two different colours. I'm going to do it, I'll just move that out of the way. Put that up there for a minute. Roll some paste now, and I'm not going to do it too thinly this time, so I'm just going to make sure that my cutter will fit in there. There we are, like that. Cut that out, and then I have a little tool here that I used earlier on. Where is it? A cell stick or anything like that. Just get in between your petals just to get your pieces out like that. You just have to be careful with some of these daisy cutters because you can quite easily pull one of the petals off. Sometimes you have to go in between with a cutting wheel if you haven't got a sharp enough cut. There we are, managed all those. Bring that round. So I'm just going to get rid of that paste. Wrap that up. And then I'm going to get that onto my pad and turn that over. And then with my medium ball tool, the small end, oops, I'm just going to pull down and sort of thin the petals out so that they curve inwards. You need something for your petals to grab onto, so just be careful at the bottom where your petals join on, that you don't break your petals off. So there we are with that. Now this hasn't got a hole in the bottom yet, but I'm going to put a hole in the bottom, and I find something to make my hole. Use the wire. It's going to go through it. There we are. So I've made the hole in the bottom already, so that will go into it. So I'm going to pop that into the centre there and just bring my petals up and just rearrange them. So if you're going to do it from scratch and not wait for things to dry, because when you do it the other way, that way, you need to make your let your petals dry first. This way you don't have to. So pop the wire into the centre, down through the hole, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to secure that onto there. So I've got some little bulldog clips. I'll find what I've done with it. There is one on here somewhere. There it is. Just pop that down there for a minute. Open that out. I managed to get a box of all assorted sizes, so I found some of these little tiny ones in the thing, and these are just ideal for this job. So what you need to do is to secure your centre, the base of your former, and pop that in there like that. So just make sure that those are spread out. So I'm just going to pop that into there for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the petals while they're in here. So I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to do two different colours. So I'm just going to leave that one for a minute. I'm going to do the first one because this centre is already dried. So what I'm going to do, as opposed to what I did with the other ones, I'm going to do the centre first. And the reason why will become obvious when I explain what I did. So just make a, we need a small ball of paste to make a cushion centre. And I'm going to do the same thing with that one as well. So I'm going to put a centre into both of those. So I've got one done there. Do another one. So I'm just going to pop some glue in the base there in the middle on that one there. You can see what I'm doing. Just around the centre, and also on this one. I'm going to get this under my hand so I don't push the wire out, and I'm just going to pop that ball of paste into the centre like that. Pop that on there again into the hole. There we are. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Now when I did the centres on these flowers here, I found it I should have thought about it before I did it, because what I did was I did the petals first, then I put the centre in, and then I had to get the things in. And I've used, for those, I've used tapioca pearls. Where are they? Oh, here they are. I don't know whether you can see those or not. And I started putting them in one by one with a pair of tweezers. Well, it took forever to do it. Then I tried pouring them in after I glued all over the centre. Again, a problem, because they're getting in between the petals and they didn't quite go where I wanted them to do. So it looked a bit untidy. So this time I thought, wait a minute, why not do the centre first before you do your petals? So if you get your centre, oops, might help if I open my glue up first. Just get rid of that green paste there, put it back in the bag. We don't need that now for a bit. And glue all over that centre. Make sure you get it all the way around and you don't have any dry spots. So if this doesn't go right, you'll have to forgive me, because as I say, I haven't done this before. We'll just do the other one. We'll glue the centre of that. I would recommend that you let this dry a bit first before you do it. But I wanted to do two, and I wanted to do one from scratch to see how it went. So again, I'm experimenting a little bit here. Just pop that glue over there so I don't knock it over. Pop that back in there. And this time what I'm going to do is what I did with these, have I got my tapioca beads up here? Let me just have a look. Yes, I have. No, I haven't. That's not it. Now I've left them downstairs. All I've done is I've done the same way as when I make pollen. I put the tapioca into a pot, put some tropical lime powder in, give it a good shake to make sure you don't get it all over your hands, and then you've got your coloured centre. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour these onto the centre like that, like you would if you were doing pollen. And if you get something like a pair of tweezers or whatever, or a palette knife or whatever, just press that onto there just to make sure that some of those are stuck onto your centre. And then before I take those out of there, I'm just going to get a piece of kitchen roll. Just get that out of the way and move my mat, because I don't want any colour on there. And I'm going to crease up the centre. You could do this with a piece of paper if you wanted to, rather than kitchen roll. And then we'll just empty the excess pearls out of there. We've just got one or two that have stuck in between, so I've got some tweezers somewhere. Here we are. Just get those out. If you are going to use the tweezer method, by the way, keep your tweezers that way up with the curve down. It's a lot easier to do that way. So that's the centre on that one done. Now this other one, because it's still soft, that's going to flop about a bit when I do this centre. So I'll just get my pot of tapioca pearls and we'll put those back into there. So we'll come on to the second one, so I'll have to readjust this a little bit when I've done it, so we'll put some centres into that. Make sure that those are in place. You can rearrange your calyx once you've got your... Oops, knocked them over. Don't do that. Get rid of those later. And onto the kitchen roll. Oh, I've done too bad there. Most of them have come out. Where's me? Just pop those back into there. Pop that in there for a minute. Well, I'll just get rid of these out of the way. Right. Get my tweezers and just take out any excess. There we are. The thing is, you've got a little bit of a bare patch at this point. You can always add some odd ones in, like I've got there some patches, so there's some spare ones knocking about in here, so you can just fill those spaces in as you wish. And then I can rearrange the calyx again, get that spread out, and then we can leave that to one side. That can dry off a little bit while I'm doing the other one, because it takes a fair while to get all your petals in place. So we'll do the dry one first and then come back to that one. Right, so get rid of those out of the way. Those. So I'm going to start off by doing the blue one first. So what I've done here is I've coloured some flower paste baby pink, which is, well, I tried doing it baby pink, I should say, with this one from Sugar Flare. It came out a bit turquoisey. So what I did with that then is I have some edible art lobelia blue, which is quite a dark blue. So what I did was I dipped the tip of a brush into some isopropyl, or you can use vodka or you can use water. Just be careful with this if you're using water that you don't put too much in, and then put that into your paste. Now with their colours, because they are colour pigments in them rather than mixed colours like some makes are, you can do it that way to colour your paste. With some of them you have to be careful, like some of the greens and that, you can see the difference in the bits of blue and yellow in it and things like that if they haven't mixed it properly. So just be careful with colours like that. Because these are true pigments, you can colour your paste with them according to the manufacturers. Right, so I've got some paste here. I'm going to roll this out now. And you can roll this out pretty thinly, like you would do if you were doing rose petals and things like that. They want to be quite fine. I mean, if you wanted to go to the trouble of it, you could separately wire your petals and put them on afterwards. I just think that this is an easier way of doing it if you take your time and you're careful with it. My calyx has just moved around on that, so I'm just going to adjust that a bit before it dries, just to make sure that I've got everything in the right place, because they're going to support the petals. And I've got some pieces there that I can take off of that when I find my tweezers. Where are they? I'm doing it again, losing things. I've just had my hands on. Never mind, I'll come back to that in a bit. It'll be fine for now. So I'm going to work on this one first of all. So I'm just going to turn that round that way, so I've got that one towards me. And I'm going to cut out, you've got about 11, I think there's about 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yeah, there's 11 on there. So I'm going to cut out 11 of these petals. 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll have to roll some more out to cut some more out. But what I'll do is, I'm not going to go through, do all of these petals all at once. I shall turn the video off and come back when I've done most of them, so you're not sat watching paint dry, as I keep saying, one of my favourite sayings when you're watching things. A lot of people have a tendency to voice over on the videos and speed things up on that. I like to do things slowly so people can actually see what I'm doing in real time, because if you speed it up, they make it look easier than it is sometimes. You know, it depends on what you're doing. If it's a complicated flower, it can be a bit off-putting for people that are not regular flower makers, or people that are just starting. You need to keep, every little detail needs to be done step by step. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one of these flowers, and with my trusty little silk veining tool, I'm going to start from the centre and roll out. I'm just going to move my camera up a little bit this way. There we are. And then again the other way. And that's stuck to my hand, so I'm going to do that again. Squash that petal. I don't like that one. This is what I mean about things going wrong. If you're having difficulties like that, the best thing to do is, if I can find my dusting bag, is to put some dust on your hands first before you do it, so things don't stick. And I've lost my dusting bag. There it is at the back. Just put a little bit of corn flour or icing sugar, whatever, on your hand so that things don't stick. This paste is quite sticky anyway, and my hands are quite warm at the moment, so again, roll out one way, then out the other way, and take, oh, pulled another petal off. We're not doing very well here, are we? And for anybody that's watching for the first time, when anything goes wrong, I don't cut it out, because I don't care how professional you are, things go wrong. Put a bit more powder on my hand this time. This didn't happen with the other petals. I managed to do all of them, but there again, I wasn't on camera, so this is when things go wrong, when you're on camera. Roll out, roll out. That's better. And then with your point up in the air on the edge of a finger, start rolling out and frilling round the edge. So if you start from the centre and roll out down one side, down the other side, try not to squash your petals together when you're doing this, and again on the other petals round the other side. So you're basically thinning them out and frilling the edges at the same time. Because they're quite a frilly flower, I prefer to do it this way because it looks a bit more realistic. I'm just going to move some things away. I've got some flowers to move from my pad, and I've got all sorts of bits and bats on here, so I'm just going to move some things out of the way from one of my other videos. I've already got some leaves that I've made here, but I'll come back to those later on. So what I'm going to do with my trusty bobble foam, the petal I've just rolled out, I'm going to pop that in between like that, so that these two side petals come up. So if you look on the flower, on each of the petals, the two side petals back up. So if you put them on here and put them to one side and let them stiffen up a bit before you start adding them to your flower, then it's easier to shape them. The first time I did it, I put them on while they were still soft, and I found it very difficult doing it that way. So I thought, well, they up, need to let them dry a little bit. That's my Yorkshire bit coming out there. Right, so roll out from one side to the other side, and then onto the edge of a finger. If you find your fingers get a bit sore, just change fingers. I do. Because even with me, my fingers get sore when you start doing a lot of these sort of things, you know. So I don't think it's just you, but I mean, I've got arthritis in my hands, so that doesn't help either. Some people might say, why don't you give up if you've got arthritis? Well, apart from the fact the exercise is good for you, I like doing what I do. I like teaching and showing people how to do things and experimenting with things, so I will carry on as long as I can. So I'm just going to pop that into that foam, and then I'm going to carry on and do the other petals, and then I'll come back. Right, so I'm back. I've done all my petals and got them all ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start and attach some of the petals that I've made. And while I've been off, I've already done the white petals for the other scabious I'm going to do. So I'm just going to start off now by putting some glue on the calyx. This is the dried one that I'm doing. So the advantage of letting them dry, these have stiffened up quite a lot of these, so I can now attach that to the petal. So you need something to get in there to get those two in position. So if you just get that onto your calyx, this is one of the reasons you need the former, and stick that down and bring your petals up. Onto your next one. That's just gone a little bit offside. Just do that again. Normally these won't be quite as dry, but if you try and do them when they're too soft, they won't go in position and stay. So just push those down to your centre. Twist that over. And then what you need to do with your petals is bring that up and buff those two petals up against each other like that, and bring your other one up. Turn it round onto your next one. If you can cup your petals up before you put them in, that might make it easier, like that. Just got to take your time with jobs like this. It's not going to happen very quickly. I've already broken a petal off there, so we'll just put some more glue on there. Might have to redo that one. Problem I've got here is I have let my petals dry a little bit too much while I've been cutting out two lots, and I've broken another one off there. Go around to the other side. This is what I mean about things going wrong. Bring that up a bit and put some glue onto there. This is why you need the former underneath, so you've got something to press against, and the former had dropped back a little bit there. That's why those pieces came off. which shouldn't happen with the white petals that I've done, because that's still quite soft. Need that to go underneath. There we are, right down to the centre. Press that in, bring that up. Oops. Try and buff that up against that petal. There we are, like that. And just have a habit of moving around. It doesn't matter which way you do it, they do this. It's quite a warm day today now. These are near my window, that's why they've dried so, the petals have dried so quickly, because they've not been there that long. And this is the problem with flower paste, is that it does, on a warm day, dry out quite quickly. So when I'm doing my videos in the summertime, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. Not going to be able to finish this one off fully because I have broken some of the calyx off, so I'll have to repair that at a later date. But I just want to get all the petals in position so you can see what I'm doing with it. Just put glue onto the last of the calyx. Oops. I hope my head's not getting in the way, because I can't look up and look down at the same time. That can go in between those two there. Push that down. Right, so I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to come on to the other one, because I've got some bits of repair to do on that one, but I will sort that out at a later date. So we'll come back to the calyx that I made earlier. Now that's moved round a little bit and it's too dry for me to move it, so I'm not going to even attempt to adjust that. Just try and get this up. And I've lost my wire out of the bottom of that one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off of there, and because I've lost the wire out I can repair that later and put it back on it. So I'm going to put this on a flat surface, which will probably be easier to work on anyway. You see, you could do these unwired as well to put on a cake as well, just by doing this, by putting them into the former without the wire in. Now these should be a little bit better to get in, because these haven't been there as long to dry. So we'll start off with these. So I'm just going to get that into there, like that. you just pull the two side wing petals up, just to slide them in like that. You can bring the petals up together once you've got them in. Like that. And what I'll have to do with this one, because the wire has come out, I'm going to have to let this dry to put the back on. So what I might do is stop the video and then come back to do this one once it's dried, to show you how you can reattach that back to your flower. This one is going back together a little bit easier because of the fact that the petals are a bit softer. You just use your Dresden tool just to position them in place and to make sure that they are attached to the calyx. I got some glue on there. Might just get one more petal. You're not necessarily going to use all of your petals, it just depends on how well you do. I might get two in here, I might only get one in, so we'll just have to see how this goes. I think I might get two in there. Bring that petal up and that petal up there, and then I can slide this one in between those two. Get your point down. You can adjust your petals once you've got them in to lift them up and buff them up against each other, and just go around and open them out. So that one's all together in one piece. So what I'll do is I'll come back with the when this is dried and show you how I'm going to attach the back of that, because that broke off. Right, so next job to do is to make some leaves to go with it. So I'm going to go back to my green paste. Just going to move that block out of the way, we don't need that now for this. That's the wire to go with that flower when we put that back together. And we'll move that cutter and put that back in there with the others. Now, as I say, I've got two leaves here. So what I've done with the ones that I've already attached the leaves to, I've done two smaller leaves and then one larger leaf. I haven't got anything like this in flower at the moment in the garden, so I can't compare it with the actual ones. I've just had a look online at the colours and things like that to get a bit of a reference there. With anything that you're doing, you can always, if things are out of season, is just look online. Go on Google and put in whatever it is you're doing, and you'll generally find that there are websites that photographers use to upload all the pictures to, and you get loads and loads of different variations. The other option is online garden centres. They're a good reference. Or if you get out to your local garden centre and go and take photographs of whatever it is you're going to do, there's always ways of finding out. And if you can get hold of a fresh flower if they're in season and put that in front of you, that's even better. Where's my cutters? Just make sure that you get your ridge up the centre. Using this rolling pin is fine for these sort of things, because being quite small leaves, you don't want a big ridge, and unfortunately with the cell boards the ridge is going to be bigger. So for each of the flowers I'm going to cut out 2 small and 1 large. I'm only going to do a set of 3 leaves because I've already made a load of leaves up, and I've already coloured some and attached them. The only problem with this one is a fine joint there in the middle, so you have to be careful of that if you've got these sort of cutters. Just be careful of that until you get your wire in. Once you get your wire in, that's strengthened then. This is why you need your wires to go as far up your leaves and petals, anything that you're using wires for, just in case you break anything, and then it's a lot easier to repair it. So I'm just going to very carefully get that one off again. Right, so I'll get rid of that paste out of the way. There's my bag. These Ziploc bags come in really handy for this sort of job. Now while I'm getting my wires out, what I would mention is another way of doing your centre, rather than doing it like I've done, because there's lots of different ways of doing it, and it's which is easier for you. Where are we? 22 gauge wires over the side. There. Another way of doing it is to do your centre. In fact, I'll do one now while I'm doing this, and then I can always come back to that one when I come back with the other ones that have dried. Where's my wire cutters? There we are. Oops, nearly. Let's cut that into 3. I'm always coming up with new ideas all the time, you know, things to make it easier for you, and I've used the wrong wire there. That's for the centre of the flowers, and I've got some 28 gauge wires here. So I'm using a 28 gauge wire for the leaves, which is in general with most leaves, that's the size that I usually use as a rule of thumb. Unless you're doing something that's really big, then you would need to use a stronger wire and go up to either a 26 or a 24, but it's very rare that we do that. Now the big one, this is where you have to be careful when you're putting the wire up because of that weak point there. So I need to get that into the bottom. Don't forget to twist it in so that your tape that's on your wires doesn't unravel. Then very carefully get your wire up. Once you've got it past that point, it's fine. So I've got the wire right up, practically up to the top there, near the 2 points. Right, so onto your foam, and then with the medium ball tool, thin each side of each of those points out. So it does tend to lengthen those points a little bit, that's fine. Just getting those cut edges off is what you're aiming for with this. Now I don't have a veiner for this, so I'm going to vein this the old-fashioned way, the way we used to have to do it before we had all these rubber veiners that are on the market these days. So I'll just turn those over. Turn it round that way. Then I want my Dresden tool, wherever I've put that. There it is, hiding under my stem text. So with the narrow end, I'm just going to very carefully draw a line up there. Just be careful of your wire, you don't want your wire to come through. Up the centre on each of the leaves. Try and keep it in line like that. Some of them have moved a little bit when I've been thinning them, so if you just steady your points out and get them back to shape again, and then from the central vein go up each of the points. Turn it round and do it the other way. You can put another one in there up at the top there if you want. As I say, I haven't got one in flower to compare this one with, because they're not up yet, with it being only April. Right, so once you've done that, then that can go into your foam. Go up your centre, just crease it up the centre a bit and pinch it at the top like that, and then into your foam. And do the last one. Right, so we can pop that to one side to dry. Get rid of those. So now we can come on to colouring. Now then, with, as I say, with the pink one, I've only half coloured it, so I've left some of it to colour. So with the purple one, I did that with some purple colouring in the paste, and then I've dusted the edge of it with this colour here, which is Empress Purple from Edible Art, just to catch the edge. They aren't variegated, aren't these, but I think if you don't get some definition into them, they don't look realistic. I think you need to do something rather than just leaving them a flat colour. And I think if you put a bit of darker colour on the edges, it just helps. And with this one here, I'm using this pink here, which is just called pink from Edible Art. So I'll continue on with that one. That's the wrong brush. We should have another brush here somewhere. That one. So as I say, I've already done part of it, so I'm just going to get my fingers underneath there so I can hold the petal. Very carefully with these because they are quite delicate, and just catch the edges with a little bit of the pink like that, and then go on the petals that are buffed up to each other, just to give that a little bit of definition. And then what I like to do is, well, because this part in the centre here do actually open up as flowers, I like to go over the top of that just with a little bit of the colour that you've used on your petals, just to catch that. Just a hint of colour, just gives it a little bit of variation. With that one I've done the pink, with that one I've done the purple. Now because those aren't dry properly, I'm not going to be able to attach the leaves to those petals, but I have got some leaves that I've already got dried here. I did earlier, and I've just broken a piece off of one. So we'll get rid of that one. And the colour that I've used for the leaves and for the calyx, which I haven't coloured on that pink one yet, I'll come back to that in a minute. The colour that I've used is Rainforest from Edible Art. I know it sounds as though I'm pushing the make, but it's the make that I use all the time. I have got other colours, but there are so many on the market nowadays, it's just a matter of finding which is easiest enough to get in your area, and which one's got the best range of colours. This one's got a massive range of colours, that's why I like them. And they're a small family business up in the northeast of the UK here. And they know about flowers as well, because the mother who head of the family, she does make flowers. She demonstrates at the shows when they go to the Cake International at the NEC. Always got a big crowd round their stand when they're there as well, because they're so popular. So just dust all over with the Rainforest. Now they don't have particularly shiny leaves, don't these? So what I've done is I've mixed up some glaze for these that's going to dry with a very, very slight shine, but more of a sort of a dull to sort of matte glaze, if you like. If you look at those there, they have been glazed, but they're not shiny. So what I've done there is I've mixed up some glaze. Where is it? Oh, up there. And what I've done here, I've mixed half and half glaze and isopropyl. It doesn't work with vodka because I find that the glaze drops to the bottom and you have to keep remembering to shake it and that. So I found it works better with the isopropyl because the glaze is made up with isopropyl anyway. So I've got one of these little bottles. These are the bottles that you get in those little kits for when you're going abroad to pack all your toiletries in. And that's what, this is one of the bottles out of there that I've used. And then I'm just going to get a brush here and then just paint that all over the top of your colour. We only do the front of the leaves because I like the backs are a lot lighter. Just pop those to one side, let that dry. The advantage with this as well, I mean, this when you're using the glaze, it does dry fairly quickly. If you haven't got the glaze, you can always steam them, and I probably think with the leaves you probably only need to steam them once to get the finish that you want on them. Unlike a shiny leaf where you have to steam it, let it dry, steam it, let it dry and build it up until you get the shine that you want. The glaze just works out a hell of a lot quicker to do this job. There we are. So put that to one side, and don't forget to clean your brushes in between. Whenever you're doing anything like this, always keep some isopropyl separate just for cleaning your brushes. This looks a mess. I need cleaning out really now because I've been using it quite some time. Make sure you clean your brush out in it, because if you don't, your brushes will dry hard. Even if you're only using cheap brushes, which this is, you need to be able to reuse them. I was always brought up not to waste anything, so that's the way that I work. Right, so once you've got your leaves done, then if you just tape them onto your flowers like I've done here, and I've just taped 3 onto this, and then when you put them together in arrangement, however you're going to do it, you've got your leaves back to back there. So I'm going to wait until the other flowers dry, and then I'm going to come back to those and show you what we can do for that. Before I do that, I did say that there was another way that you could do your centre, and I'll just show you that one now. Just get rid of that out of the way. So I'm just going to get some green paste, and this is probably the easiest way of doing it. Probably everybody's going to do this now, and I should have done it in the first place, but I just thought about it while I was working on my bits and pieces here. What have I done with my green? There it is. So what you could do is to get your wire with the top bent on it. When I find my tweezers, what have I done with them? There they are. With your long nose pliers, make a little hook on the top. Bring that in, and then turn it over like I did before. I'm just going to then if you pull that into your ball of paste like you would if you were doing a rose cone or anything like that, and then just work your paste over the top of the wire to make a little pad. That's a little bit big. I'm just going to make that a little bit small because it's too big. Use about half of that, I think. Or you could do it, you could push it in from the bottom and pull it round the back like that, and then flatten it down. Same way as you would if you were going to do a daisy or anything that's got a sort of like a polleny type cushion type centre, like that. And then you could let that dry. I'm not going to do, because time is against me here and I want to do this fairly quickly. Get your little balls for the centre, and then just pop your centre into it like that. Might need a little bit more glue on that, just in little places there. And there's your centre. That's a lot easier, isn't it? Now, why didn't I do that in the first place? Like I keep saying, we all learn by our mistakes. If something goes wrong, find another way of doing it. If there's an easier way of doing it, you can do. So that's the different ways of making your scabious. So I'm going to switch off now, and I'll come back when the other pieces have dried, and I'll finish that off. Hi everyone. So I've left my flowers to dry overnight, and I've also been a bit quick to put the centre into my flower that I left yesterday, and I've also repaired the blue flower. So now we'll get on to finishing these off. I'm just going to put those into my little stand for the time being. Now the one that I repaired where the wire had come out, which was the blue one, this one, what I've done is I've just put I put a piece of paste on the wire, and I've made a little hip on the back of the flowers. I haven't got anything like this in flower at the moment, so I can't check to see what the back is like on them, but if it repairs your flower, people are looking at the front anyway, they're not looking at the back, and particularly when you're doing them on cakes as well, it's the overall effect that people are looking for. So I'm just going to pop those into there, and we've got some leaves yet to colour and put together, so I'm just going to do those. Very quickly. So if I get my paper over here with my colours on, put those to one side. I know you've already seen me colour some of these leaves before, but I'll just go through it again because I can't remember what I said yesterday when I put these things to dry. So again, as I said before, I'm using Rainforest here. So if you dust all over with the Rainforest, and then you can give them a bit of a waft over the back. You don't have to do this because the backs are very light anyway on the actual leaves. While I'm doing this, I got a comment from a lovely lady who left me a comment on my last video, the Amaryllis, and it was so nice to get a comment where somebody said I couldn't have made anything any better. I think it's mainly because I showed the actual flower as well, rather than just for people to leave for themselves, find out for themselves. I'll try and have something to compare with, but we can't always do that. It depends on whether that particular flower's in season or not. If you get a bit of shading on your leaves, that doesn't matter either as well, because sometimes, as I found at a friend's house the other day, we were doing I was altering a tree for her, and we took some of the bits off that we didn't want on the tree, and we found another piece growing on the tree that was variegated. Oh, there it is. I was just looking for my green there. And anyway, she's taking it off now, and she's going to try and root it. So just what I'm trying to explain there is that sometimes nature doesn't necessarily do what you expect it to do. Things can vary quite a lot. Nature is a funny animal. Whoops. Right, while I've got the green, I'm going to do the backs of the flowers. If I remember rightly, I think on the pink one, I don't think I did the back. No, I didn't. No. So I'm just going to move those leaves back. I've knocked a bit off the end there, and just go over that. Now, as I said, there are 3 different ways that I've told you about doing the back for this. So it's up to you, whichever is easier for you, because with a lot of flowers there are different ways of doing things, you know. It's one of the reasons why there's so many videos to watch on YouTube as well, because you'll find that other people on there may have a different way of doing this to me. And what you do is you find out which is the best process for you to use, whichever is easier. And we're all learning all the time. No matter how long you've been doing this job, you can still always learn. Some of my calyx have gone a little bit skew-whiff on the back, but when you look at the overall effect, when you look at the actual flowers, you're not going to see that anyway. The back is there just to show you that it has got a back on it. And actually with this as well, you could do this as an unwired flower. I don't know whether I mentioned this in the first part of the video. If you just do the daisy effect and put it into your former, the same as I've done, but without the wire, you could do these to put directly on a cake for somebody who doesn't want a wired spray to take off. I mean, the whole point of doing the wired sprays in the first place on wedding cakes and celebration cakes and that is so that people have got something as a keepsake after the special day, and that's why we do it. Right, so I'm just going to get rid of that green now, and I'm going to go on to the blue one now, and I'm actually going to use a much darker colour, but I'm going to be very sparing with it. This one's called Lobelia. This is what I put into the paste to colour the paste when I told you about, so you can see the difference, what I've done. A tiny little bit of that with on a wet cocktail stick or whatever else it is you're going to use, and I'm just going to find a brush to do that with. See if I can find a brush that I haven't that I've used for a dark colour. If I've got one, might have to use a new brush. I think I've got one in. No, I haven't got one in there. Hang on, what's this? That'll do. It's been used for a green, so that'll do. So I'm only gonna use a very tiny little bit. I just want to get, this is an experiment because I've not done this before, so you're learning this the same time as me. So I'm just gonna, oh yes, that looks nice. As long as you're not too heavy with it, and just put a faint covering on the very edge of the petals. I think I'm liking this quite a lot. Don't know about you people watching, but anybody that's watching that has an opinion, let me know what you're thinking. I'm going a little bit heavier on that, so I'm just going to go a little bit heavier on these as well. Again, this is another edible art colour that I'm using here. And I'm being very careful because I've got a loose petal. I'm going to have to go back and fix. I thought I'd fix them all, and I've missed one there, so I can fix that afterwards because it's only one. Happens to the best of us. Oops, it's dropped off. I'll come back and fix that back in again later. This is one of the hazards of sugar flowers. People that do porcelain are a lot better off because it doesn't break as easily. But with sugar, there's always that danger that you catch a petal or whatever. I think that looks quite nice actually. If we put the other petal in with it as well and show that as the finished article, I think that looks rather nice. Now the white one I'm not going to do anything with because it is white. You could use the white luster dust on it if you wanted to, just to finish it off, but since I haven't used the luster dust on any of the others, I'm not going to do that. If your paste is a bit off-white, then I would use the white dust on it to get that. And the one thing I've just forgotten with that blue one there, I'm just going to go over the top of the there to add a little bit of blue into that. There we are. I've got some more leaves to put on here, but I'm not going to do that now because I think I've gone on long enough. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any comments about anything that you've seen me do or any questions you want to ask, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and then you'll get notified whenever I upload new videos. I try and do at least one a week if I can, although I've done 2 this week, so I've excelled myself. So look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care and stay safe.